From facial recognition cameras to digital forensic tracking, from cell phone triangulation to DNA databases, from social media footprints to automated license plate readers. In today's world, I can say with almost absolute certainty that Dexter Morgan would be caught within his first handful of kills. Yet the show made it seem so easy for him to operate undetected for years. Which begs the question, could the Bay Harbor Butcher exist today? In this video, I'm going to examine how modern technology, surveillance systems, and forensic advancements would make Dexter's carefully crafted kill ritual nearly impossible to sustain in 2025. First up, we got Dexter's kill ritual. To understand whether Dexter would be caught today, we need to establish the baseline, the world he operated in from 2006 to 2013, because I think that specific time frame matters more than you think. Dexter's ritual was identical every time. He'd access the Miami Metro Police Department database to research potential targets. As a blood spatter analyst, he had legitimate reasons to be in the system, pulling case files, checking criminal histories. He'd find someone who fit Harry's code, a murderer who escaped justice, and gather proof. Not just suspicion, actual evidence. Once confirmed, he moved to surveillance, learning routines and identifying the perfect moment to strike. Then came the ambush using M99, Adaptation, an extremely powerful tranquilizer used for elephants. One injection and victims were unconscious in seconds. He transported them while sedated to a pre-selected kill room already wrapped entirely in plastic sheeting. When victims woke up, they'd be restrained with industrial shrink wrap on a table, surrounded by photographs of their own crimes. Dexter would confront them with their guilt, collect a blood slide trophy by slicing their cheek with a scalpel, then kill them with a knife to the chest. After death, he dismembered the bodies with a power saw, placed sections in contractor bags weighted with rocks, seal them with duct tape, and transport them to his boat, the Slice of Life. The final step was disposal in the Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current flowing at over 4 miles per hour off the Florida coast. By dumping weighted body bags into this current, Dexter ensured victims would be carried hundreds of miles away, scattered across the Atlantic, making recovery essentially impossible. So why did this work through 2006 through 2013? This system was brutally effective. DNA analysis in 2006 took weeks to process. By the time the lab results came back, Dexter's victims had been drifting in the Atlantic for days or weeks. Surveillance cameras existed, but weren't everywhere. Gas stations might have one grainy camera. Marinas had basic security. Residential areas had minimal coverage. Nobody had Ring doorbells recovering every car that drove down the street. Digital footprints were minimal. People didn't have phones tracking their location every second. Cloud backups weren't automatically storing every deleted file. Database queries weren't logged with AI pattern detection. Credit card records existed, but weren't instantly cross-referenced with phone location data and security footage to reconstruct someone's exact movements. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation in Season 2 only happened because scuba divers accidentally discovered Dexter's underwater dump site while searching for treasure. They weren't looking for bodies. They stumbled onto them. Without that random discovery, those 18 victims would have stayed missing forever. I mean, isn't this crazy? That tells you everything about the technological limitations of that era. Law enforcement couldn't find bodies even when they were all in one location underwater. Dexter operated in a technological sweet spot. Forensic science had advanced enough that DNA mattered, and blood spatter analysts was sophisticated, but it hadn't advanced so much that everything became instant and unavoidable. Surveillance existed, but wasn't omnipresent. Digital records existed, but weren't permanent and interconnected. It was the perfect gap between old detective work and the modern surveillance state. But what changed? Between Dexter's last Miami kill and today, forensic investigation transformed fundamentally. DNA analysis now takes 90 minutes instead of weeks. Portable DNA sequencers process samples on site, but the real terror for serial killers is genealogical DNA databases. The Golden State Killer operated for 32 years untouched. Genealogical DNA caught him in months after investigators upload crime scene DNA to GD Match, found a distant relative, and built a family tree. Touch DNA sensitivity reached a point to where a single skin cell generates a full profile. Digital forensics created permanent records of everything. Phones track location constantly, pinging cell towers every few seconds with data stored permanently. Cloud backups means nothing ever truly disappears. License plate readers blanket entire cities, automatically photographing every plate, timestamping it, logging location. These systems are connected. Phone location, license plates, credit cards, all cross-referenced to build complete movement timelines. Surveillance went from sparse coverage to everywhere. Major cities have thousands of cameras with facial recognition. Ring doorbells put security cameras on every third house. Coast Guard drones and satellite monitor waters with thermal imaging. The open ocean isn't open anymore. Machine learning spots serial killers before humans do. Algorithms analyze thousands of cases simultaneously, identifying patterns human investigators miss. Buy plastic wrap, duct tape, and knives in the same transaction? The system notices. VICAP now runs on AI that cross-references cases across the entire country instantly. Geofence warrants identify every phone in a specific location during specific timeframes. Dexter operated in a gap era between old forensics and new technology. The technological infrastructure was advanced enough that he could use it to research victims, but not so advanced that it tracked everything he did. It was the perfect window. And here's something that should make you think. Serial killer activity statistically declined after this period. That's not a coincidence. The same technological changes that would catch Dexter caught real serial killers or deterred them from operating. The gap closed. If you're finding this breakdown on how modern forensics would completely dismantle Dexter's operation interesting, make sure to turn on the notification bell. We got more deep dives into how technology has changed the crime landscape coming your way. Now, let's look at how specific these changes would impact each stage of Dexter's kill ritual, because understanding the general technological landscape is one thing, seeing exactly how it would dismantle his specific methods is another. We'll start with how he researched and selected victims, because this is where the digital paper trail begins. The research phase was Dexter's safest step in 2006, because he had legitimate access to everything it needed. In 2025, I think it becomes his most dangerous vulnerability. Database queries are now logged with AI-powered audit trails that flag suspicious patterns automatically. Every file access gets recorded, who searched, what they searched for, when, and why. If a blood spatter analyst repeatedly pulls files on murders outside his jurisdiction, algorithms notice. If those searches cluster around people who later disappear, the system flags it for investigation. Between 2013 and 2015, over 325 police officers and employees across the United States were fired, suspended, or resigned after being caught making unauthorized database queries. An Associated Press investigation found officers using databases to stalk ex-partners, spy on journalists, and sell confidential information. These weren't sophisticated criminals. They were cops running simple searches thinking nobody would notice. Modern audit systems track everything. Dexter would be pulling dozens of files on suspected murderers over years, accessing hundreds of records on people who fit Harry's code. When those same people started disappearing, AI pattern recognition would connect his database queries to missing persons reports instantly. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation only happened because divers accidentally found bodies. In 2025, investigators would identify Dexter as a suspect within weeks just from his search history. Then there's the M99 problem. Dexter viewed atropine hydrochloride, acquiring it under the alias Patrick Bateman. That worked in 2006. Today, every controlled substance is tracked through prescription drug monitoring programs in 49 states. M99 falls under DEA's Schedule 2, the same category as fentanyl. Every prescription gets logged with patient information, prescriber details, pharmacy location, date, and quantity. If someone's acquiring elephant tranquilizers under a fake name, the system flags it. Google searches create permanent records that have convicted murderers. In January of 2023, Brian Walsh was charged with murdering his wife Anna after prosecutors presented his search history. Starting at 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, he searched how long before a body starts to smell, how to stop a body from decomposing, and 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. The search continued for 3 days. His laptop recorded everything with exact timestamps. In December of 2025, Brian Walsh was convicted of first-degree murder. His wife's body was never found. I mean, isn't this crazy? His Google search history convicted him. Dexter researching victims would create the same permanent record. Every search gets stored in cloud backups. Deleted browser history gets recovered instantly. Work computer searches are worse because IT departments maintain logs of every website accessed. Buying plastic sheeting, duct tape, contractor bags, power saws, and surgical knives in the same transaction flags retail analytics algorithms. Modern retailers use AI to identify suspicious purchase patterns. Even paying cash doesn't help because stores have facial recognition at checkout and license plate readers in parking lots. Social media stalking leaves permanent traces, viewing profiles, searching names, looking at photos, all logged. If Dexter stalked potential victims online before they disappeared, those digital footprints would connect him to missing persons. Using a VPN from a police computer to hide searches, that itself becomes evidence. Why does a blood spatter analyst need encrypted internet access on a work computer? The attempt to hide activity would just drive more attention. Something Streisand effect. In New Blood, Dexter completely abandoned police database access. He worked at Fred's fishing game with no law enforcement credentials. Matt Caldwell was identified through direct observation. Kurt Caldwell was identified through physical evidence discovered, not police systems. In Resurrection, Dexter adapted further. Leon Prater, a billionaire, maintained secret files on active serial killers worldwide. When Prater died, Dexter stole these files containing names, locations, methods, and evidence. This gave him targets without touching government databases. But here's the critical weakness. Prater's files only worked because Prater had already done the research outside of official channels. Dexter inherited someone else's work. He can't generate new targets this way. Once he exhausts Prater's files, he's back to the same problem. How do you identify murderers who escape justice without accessing databases that log every query and flag suspicious patterns? The research phase that was Dexter's safest step in 2006 became impossible to safely do by 2025 without completely changing his methodology. Even if Dexter solved the research problem, he still had to physically surveil his victims to confirm they fit the code, and that's where things get even worse. In 2006, surveillance meant parking down the street and watching. In 2025, surveillance means getting captured by systems that never stop recording. Automated license plate reader networks track every vehicle movement across entire cities. These comprehensive systems photograph every license plate, log the time and GPS coordinates, and store data for years. The cameras scan over 900 plates per minute. Companies like Flock Safety have deployed over 100,000 cameras across the United States, one camera for every 4,000 citizens. When January 6 rioter Matthew Vogel uploaded video of himself inside the Capitol to Snapchat, FBI investigators traced his car and logged into ALPR systems. They discovered his vehicle took the Henry Hudson Bridge from the Bronx at 6:06 a.m. on January 6, entered New Jersey at 7:54 a.m., and proceeded through Baltimore at 9:15 a.m. An ALPR camera in rural Maryland even captured a photograph showing a distinctive red "Make America Great Again" hat on the dashboard. Think about that for a second. The network tracked his entire journey across 4 states automatically. Dexter driving to surveil a victim would create the same permanent record. His license plate would get photographed dozens of times. If that victim disappeared and investigators pulled ALPR data, they'd see Dexter's vehicles near the victim's location multiple times beforehand. AI algorithms designed to identify stalking patterns would flag this automatically. Ring doorbells put cameras on every 3rd house, recording 24/7. They record streets, sidewalks, driveways, and passing vehicles. Police made over 20,000 requests for Ring footage in a single year. If Dexter parked to watch a victim's house, Ring cameras would record his car from multiple angles. Different neighbor cameras would capture him arriving, sitting in the vehicle, and leaving. When the victim disappeared, investigators would request Ring footage and immediately identified the same vehicle appearing repeatedly beforehand. Cell tower data shows every phone in an area during any time frame. During the January 6 Capitol attack, investigators served geofence warrants identifying 5,723 devices in or near the Capitol. The data included latitude and longitude to 7 decimal places. FBI agents contacted DC residents whose phones pinged nearby towers, even if uninvolved. If Dexter surveilled a victim while carrying his phone, cell tower data would place him near the victim's location repeatedly. Even with location services disabled, the phone would ping towers when receiving calls or texts. Investigators would pull cell tower dumps showing Dexter's phone in the area multiple times, cross-reference with the victim's phone showing both devices in proximity repeatedly. The January 6 investigation shows how these systems work together. Investigators used surveillance cameras, cell tower data, geofence warrants, ALPR networks, and facial recognition to identify over 1,400 people. They tracked suspects city to city using license plate readers. One alleged rioter was pulled over for a broken headlight in Massachusetts 2 years later. Body camera footage from that traffic stop got sent to the FBI, matched his face to Capitol riot images, and arrested him. In New Blood, set in the small town Iron Lake, population 2,760, Dexter faced different surveillance. The town had minimal infrastructure, no ALPR networks, limited traffic cameras, fewer Ring doorbells. The challenge wasn't cameras, it was people. Everyone knew everyone. Strangers got noticed immediately. Dexter couldn't surveil anyone without someone wondering why Jim Lindsay was sitting in his truck on their street. Social surveillance replaced technological surveillance. In Resurrection, set in 2025 New York City, Dexter became a year-card rideshare driver. This provided cover for being in different neighborhoods. Rideshare drivers don't raise suspicion. He could drive through any neighborhood, park briefly, and blend into delivery drivers and commercial traffic. Surveillance cameras captured him, but he had legitimate reasons for being anywhere. When targeting Ronald Red Schmidt, he did it through rideshare work. The adaptation shows Dexter understood the surveillance problem. You can't avoid cameras in a major city, so you need a legitimate reason to be captured everywhere. But the cover story becomes evidence once investigators start looking for patterns. Physical surveillance in 2025 creates permanent records through ALPR networks, ring cameras, cell tower data, and commercial security footage working together to track movements across entire cities automatically. But even if Dexter somehow avoided every surveillance camera, dodged every license plate reader, and kept his phone turned off during surveillance, he still had to physically grab his victims and transport them to a kill room. That's where the situation gets even worse, because in 2025, victims carried their own tracking devices that broadcast their exact location every second and record their final moments with medical precision. Getting victims from whenever Dexter found them to his kill room created another vulnerability. In 2006, sedating someone with M99 and loading them into a car meant handling a brief window of risk. In 2025, I think that same abduction broadcast the victim's location constantly while recording their exact moment of distress. Victims' phones track location every second. Find My iPhone and Google location services run in the background, logging coordinates even when the phone appears off. When 27-year-old Egypt Covington was murdered in her Michigan home in 2017, investigators obtained a geofence warrant from Google requesting location data for every device in the area during the crime. The warrant identified 3 men whose phones placed them at Covington's house when she died. All 3 pleaded guilty to second-degree murder based on phone location data that put them at the scene. When Patrick Frazee murdered his fiancée, Kelsey Barrow, in Colorado in 2018, her phone became the key evidence. Cell tower data showed both phones traveling together from Woodland Park towards Frazee's ranch in Florissant on the day that Barrow disappeared. Her phone then traveled through Grand Junction, Salt Lake City, and into Idaho, where Frazee's accomplice disposed of it near Mallet Gorge State Park. Cell tower analysis tracked the phone's exact route across multiple states, creating an undeniable timeline. Frazee was convicted of first-degree murder. If Dexter sedated a victim and drove them to a kill room, the victim's phone would broadcast their location the entire journey. Even unconscious, their phone would still ping cell towers along the route, creating a permanent record of the exact path from abduction site to kill room. When the victim was reported missing, investigators would pull phone data showing their last known location, then track the phone's movements to whenever Dexter took them. The digital trail would lead directly to the kill room. Fitness trackers record even more damning evidence by logging the exact moment of death. When 67-year-old Karen Navarro was murdered by her 90-year-old stepfather Anthony Alio in San Jose in 2018, her Fitbit Alta HR captured everything. The device recorded a significant heart rate spike at 3:20 p.m. when Alio attacked her. Her heart rate then showed rapid slowing before the device stopped transmitting data entirely at 3:28 p.m. That's wild. That 8-minute window, combined with neighborhood security cameras, show Alio's car parked outside during those exact minutes, which led to his arrest for murder. In Australia, Apple Watch heart rate data helped convict Caroline Nilsson of murdering her mother-in-law Myrna in 2016. The watch recorded Myrna's heart rate increasing during the attack, then slowing as she lost consciousness, all within a 7-minute window. This contradicted Caroline's claim that masked intruders had broken in hours later. The precise timeline from the Apple Watch proved the attack happened when only Caroline was present. When Richard DeBate murdered his wife Connie in Connecticut in 2015, he told police a masked intruder broke in, tied him to a chair, and shot Connie as she entered through the garage. But Connie's Fitbit contradicted every detail. The device showed she walked 1,217 feet in the approximate 40 minutes before movement stopped. If she'd only walked from her car to the basement where she died, the Fitbit would have recorded just 125 feet. Her phone connected to home Wi-Fi and uploaded photos to Facebook during the time Richard claimed the masked gunman was present. The Fitbit data destroyed his alibi. These devices record stress responses during abduction, heart rate spikes, irregular breathing patterns, sudden movements all get logged with exact timestamps. If Dexter grabbed someone, sedated them, and loaded them into his car, their Apple Watch or Fitbit would record the physiological stress response. The heart rate spike from panic, the struggle, the moment the sedation took effect would all be permanently stored. Social media accelerates missing person reports. In 2006, someone could disappear and it might be hours or days before anyone noticed. In 2025, if someone doesn't respond to text within an hour, friends start checking. Posts about missing persons spread across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok within hours. The faster someone is reported missing, the faster investigators pull phone data and issue alerts. Police reconstruct final hours by combining credit card transactions, phone pings, camera footage, and witness statements. They create minute-by-minute timelines showing where the victim was, who they contacted, and what they were doing before disappearance. Timeline gaps become obvious investigation zones. Dexter's abductions in New Blood avoided these problems by avoiding traditional abduction entirely. His first victim, Matt Caldwell, was killed outdoors at the moment of opportunity. Matt was hunting illegally when Dexter shot him, wrapped the body in plastic, and buried underneath a fire pit. No sedation, no transport to a kill room, no phone tracking across town. Kurt Caldwell's victims were runaways who had already been missing for extended periods before Kurt found them. These were people whose phones had gone dark weeks or months earlier, whose families had already reported them missing. This adaptation only works by completely abandoning Dexter's original methodology. The careful surveillance, the M99 sedation, the plastic-wrapped kill rooms and controlled locations all become impossible when victims' phones broadcast location constantly and fitness trackers record their final heartbeats. Every phone is a witness, every fitness tracker a forensic timeline, every second of movement a permanent record. What do you think? Could Dexter have found a way around phone tracking and fitness tracker data in 2025? Or is this technology completely unavoidable? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Even if Dexter managed to grab a victim without their phone and fitness tracker creating a digital trail, and even if he killed them in a sterile room, he'd still face the same problem that ended his original operation, disposing of the body without leaving evidence. Automatic identification system transponders broadcast every boat's position automatically. Commercial vessels over 300 tons and passenger ships are required to carry AIS transponders that transmit the vessel's identity, position, course, and speed every few seconds. This data gets logged permanently by Coast Guard stations, satellites, and maritime tracking services like Maritime Traffic. Anyone can access historical AIS data showing where specific boats traveled and how long they stayed at locations and their exact routes. If Dexter took the slice of life to dump bodies in the Gulf Stream in 2025, the boat's AIS transponder would broadcast its position continuously. Coast Guard systems would log every trip showing departure from the marina, the route to disposal coordinates, how long the boat stayed at the location, and the return journey. When victims were reported missing and investigators noticed Dexter had database access to their files, they'd pull AIS data for his boat. The system would reveal that he made trips to the same Gulf Stream coordinates repeatedly, stayed for specific durations, then returned. The pattern would be undeniable. Marina surveillance cameras timestamp every departure and return. Modern marinas install comprehensive security camera systems covering every ship, fuel dock, and entrance. These systems record who leaves when, what they're carrying, and when they return. If Dexter loaded supplies onto the slice of life at 2 a.m., cameras would capture him carrying plastic sheeting, bags, and equipment. When he returned hours later, cameras would show him arriving with less cargo. The timestamps would match exactly with trips to Gulf Stream disposal sites. Fuel purchases and slip fees create financial trails. Every time Dexter filled the boat's tank, his credit card created a record with exact timestamps. Marina slip fees get paid monthly, with records showing which boat occupied which slip. When investigators cross-reference fuel purchases with AIS data, they see he brought fuel before each trip to the disposal coordinates. The financial records would corroborate the movement data. AI pattern recognition connects dots humans miss. The Murder Accountability Project developed an algorithm that analyzes homicide data to identify serial killer patterns by examining killings related by method, place, time, and victim sex while considering whether unsolved murder rates in a city are notable. The algorithm successfully predicted a serial killer operating in an Indiana county 4 years before police caught the suspect. When applied to Dexter's case, AI would flag the pattern: multiple missing persons whose files Dexter accessed days before disappearance, his boat traveling to identical coordinates after each person went missing, and no bodies ever being recovered. The Bay Harbor Butcher case that took 2 years to develop in 2006 would be solved in weeks by AI cross-referencing database access logs, AIS tracking data, marina surveillance, and missing person reports. New Blood completely abandoned ocean disposal. Dexter's first victim, Matt Caldwell, was dismembered and buried under a fire pit at the summer camp where Dexter worked. When the investigation intensified and Dexter feared discovery, he dug up the remains and burned them in an incinerator at the school where he worked. This became his disposal method throughout New Blood and Resurrection. Bodies got incinerated, eliminating DNA evidence and leaving only ash residue. But incineration creates its own vulnerabilities. Industrial incinerators require facility access with security cameras logging entry and exit times. The burning process produces heat signatures detectable by thermal imaging satellites. Ash residue can still be analyzed for human remains through forensic testing. Utility bills show spike in energy usage during cremation cycles. The facility access logs, thermal satellite data, and utility records all create digital footprints that didn't exist with ocean disposal. In Resurrection, Dexter worked at a funeral home with crematorium access. This provided legitimate cover for using an incinerator, but still created records. Every cremation required paperwork, fuel consumption got logged, and the facility had security systems. If investigators ever connected Dexter to missing persons, crematorium logs would show unauthorized burns during times he had facility access. The adaptation from ocean to fire disposal shows Dexter understood modern boat tracking made his original method impossible. AIS transponders broadcasting position every few seconds, marina surveillance timestamping every moment, fuel purchase records creating financial trails, and AI algorithms spotting patterns across missing person databases all combined to make the ghost stream disposal completely unworkable. The switch to incineration solved the boat tracking problem, but created new evidence through facility access logs, thermal signatures, and utility spikes. In 2006, disposing of bodies in the ocean worked because nobody tracked boat movements automatically and nobody looked for patterns across missing person cases. In 2025, both technologies make it impossible. Even if Dexter somehow avoided every digital tracking system and managed to operate undetected, he still had multiple close calls throughout the original series where investigators came dangerously close to catching him. Those same situations in 2025 wouldn't just be close calls, they'd be immediate arrest. Dexter had multiple moments throughout the original series where he narrowly avoided capture through luck, timing, or someone else's incompetence. In 2025, those same scenarios wouldn't give him a second chance. In Season 2, Episode 6, Dexter discovered that security cameras at the Coral Cove Marina had filmed him cleaning his boat. The footage was stored on outdated computers that required a system upgrade before it could be viewed. Agent Lundy mentioned the cameras existed, but didn't know they captured anything yet. Dexter pulled the fire alarm to evacuate the building, hid under a desk, and deleted the footage before anyone saw it. The entire investigation hung on whether those files got upgraded and viewed. In 2025, that footage would have been uploaded to cloud storage automatically the moment it was recorded. Marina surveillance systems now connect directly to cloud servers with redundant backups across multiple locations. When Dexter pulled that fire alarm, the footage would have been stored remotely where he couldn't access it. The upgrade wouldn't matter. Lundy's team would have requested the cloud archive footage immediately and seen Dexter meticulously cleaning blood evidence off the slice of life. The investigation would have ended that week. Modern cloud storage creates permanent copies that can't be deleted locally. Even if Dexter somehow accessed the Marina's computer system, the footage would exist on Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure servers, with access logs showing who tried to delete what and when. His attempt to destroy evidence would itself become evidence. In Season 5, Detective Quinn hired private investigator Stan Liddy to surveil Dexter. Liddy set up cameras in Dexter's apartment and photographed him at a marina disposing of body parts. Quinn checked out surveillance equipment from Miami Metro under a false case number. When Dexter discovered the cameras, he tracked down Liddy through the equipment checkout logs and killed him before Liddy could share the evidence. The photos existed only on Liddy's devices, so when Liddy died, the evidence died with him. In 2025, those surveillance photos would have uploaded automatically to Liddy's phone, which would sync to cloud backup services like iCloud or Google Photos. The images would have been tagged with GPS coordinates, timestamps, and device information. When Liddy died, his phone would have locked, but the photos would still exist in cloud storage, accessible through his email account or family devices. Law enforcement investigating Liddy's death would have requested his digital records and discovered hundreds of surveillance photos showing Dexter dumping bodies. Quinn would have been questioned about why he hired Liddy. The equipment checkout logs would have been reviewed, and the entire conspiracy would have unraveled immediately. Cloud backups mean evidence no longer dies with the person who collected it. Every photo, every video, every document gets automatically copied to remote servers that investigators can subpoena after death. In Season 7, Captain LaGuerta reopened the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation after finding a blood slide at Travis Marshall's crime scene. She discovered Dexter had relocated his boat from Coral Cove Marina during the original investigation, even though he had 8 months left on his lease. This seems suspicious, but LaGuerta couldn't prove anything without additional evidence. Dexter planted false evidence on his own boat to make it look like LaGuerta was framing him, which got him released when she arrested him. In 2025, LaGuerta wouldn't need to prove anything through circumstantial evidence about boat relocations. She would have requested Dexter's complete digital history from the original Bay Harbor Butcher investigation. Cell tower data would show his phone near disposal sites. Marina surveillance archives would show him leaving dock late at night and returning hours later. AIS tracking data would plot his boat's exact coordinates during each disposal. Credit card records would show fuel purchases before each trip. Database access logs would show he queried victim files days before they disappeared. AI pattern recognition software would have flagged all of this automatically. LaGuerta wouldn't be investigating based on hunches about suspicious boat moves. She'd have comprehensive digital evidence showing Dexter's phone, boat, database access, and credit cards all connecting him to every missing person. The planted false evidence wouldn't matter when prosecutors had gigabytes of location data, surveillance footage, and financial records creating an undeniable pattern. Modern investigations don't rely on finding smoking guns or catching suspects in lies. They build digital timelines combining phone data, surveillance archives, financial transactions, and database logs that make patterns undeniable. Dexter's close calls in the original series worked because he could delete local files, destroy physical evidence, or exploit investigator incompetence. In 2025, the evidence exists in multiple places simultaneously. Investigators can access years of archive data instantly, and AI spots patterns that humans miss. The plot armor that saved Dexter repeatedly throughout 8 seasons simply doesn't work when every action creates permanent digital records across distributed systems. After examining how modern technology turns every step of Dexter's operation into a digital trail leading straight to him, it seems impossible that he could operate in 2025 at all. But technology hasn't just made hunting serial killers easier, it also created new vulnerabilities and distractions that a methodical predator like Dexter could exploit. At first glance, working inside law enforcement seems like the ultimate advantage in 2025. Dexter could monitor investigations in real time, know exactly what evidence police collected, and stay ahead of any manhunt. His forensic expertise means understanding DNA analysis, surveillance patterns, and digital tracking. Some have theorized a cyber Dexter scenario, where he hides kills during ransomware attacks, or exclusively targets dark web criminals whose disappearances nobody reports. He could focus on off-grid victims, homeless populations, undocumented immigrants, people without social media footprints. Modern disposal methods like chemical dissolution or industrial incinerators could eliminate bodies entirely. But these theoretical advantages reveal a fundamental problem. Every single advantage creates new digital footprints that make Dexter more suspicious, not less. Monitoring investigations means accessing case files, which gets logged. Manipulating digital evidence leaves metadata trails showing who made changes and when. Targeting off-grid victims only works until investigators notice a blood spatter analyst keeps being connected to people who disappear without leaving normal digital trails. Chemical dissolution requires purchasing acids that trigger law enforcement databases. Industrial incinerators have security cameras, access logs, utility spikes, and thermal signatures visible from satellites. The real advantage isn't knowledge, it's that knowledge becoming evidence of guilt. Dennis Rader understood this problem better than most serial killers. He graduated from Wichita State University in 1979 with a degree in criminal justice while actively killing as the BTK killer. He worked for ADT Security Services, installing alarm systems, learning home security from the inside. In 1991, he became a compliance officer for Park City, Kansas, carrying a badge and gaining access to homes under official authority. He maintained a 30-year killing career precisely because he knew what investigators looked for. His expertise kept him free for 3 decades. He left minimal physical evidence, carefully staged crime scenes, and went completely silent when investigations intensified. Between 1974 and 1991, BTK killed at least 10 people while living as a respected community member, church council president, Cub Scout leader, and married father of 2. Then, in 2004, after 13 years of silence, Rader read a newspaper article marking the 13th anniversary of his first murders. He felt kind of bored and decided to resume sending letters. When investigators asked if he could send communications via floppy disk, Rader asked police directly whether a disk could be traced to a specific computer. Police took out a classified ad saying, "Rex, it will be okay," an outright lie. Ratter trusted them, sent the disc, and got arrested 3 weeks later. His criminal justice degree became the reason he got caught. Ratter deleted identifying information from the floppy disk, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of digital forensics, but he didn't know about metadata embedded in document properties. When police examined the disk, they found it had last been saved by someone named Dennis and had been used at Christ Lutheran Church. A simple internet search revealed Dennis Ratter served as president of that church. Police subpoenaed a pap smear sample from Ratter's daughter, ran a familial DNA testing against semen from 1974 Ontario crime scene, and made the arrest. During 34 hours of interrogation, Ratter expressed genuine shock that the police had lied about the floppy disk being safe. His criminal justice education made him overconfident. He believed his knowledge made him untouchable. His expertise created the illusion of safety that didn't exist. The BT case demonstrates the core problem with any theoretical advantages Dexter might have in 2025. When a blood spatter analyst demonstrates knowledge of encryption, evidence manipulation, or sophisticated disposal methods, that expertise itself becomes suspicious. Why does someone who analyzed blood droplets understand how to delete metadata from digital files? Why does he know about VPN services, geofence warrants, or industrial incineration temperatures? In New Blood, this exact problem surfaced. When Chief Angela Bishop confronted Dexter before his escape, the core issue wasn't evidence, it was expertise. How does a blood spatter analyst from Miami, who claimed to be dead for 10 years, know so much about serial killer methodology? The knowledge itself became incriminating. By resurrection, Dexter adapted by working as a year-car rideshare driver instead of returning to law enforcement. The career change eliminated the expertise problem. Rideshare drivers can be anywhere at any time with legitimate reasons. The adaptation worked because it removed his forensic knowledge from the equation. He became anonymous through ignorance rather than noticeable through expertise. The fundamental paradox is inescapable. Modern technology makes it nearly impossible for serial killers to operate without leaving digital trails. The natural response would be developing sophisticated technical knowledge to avoid detection, but acquiring and demonstrating that knowledge makes someone more suspicious to investigators, not less. When algorithms flag suspicious patterns, the person with unexplained technical sophistication becomes the prime suspect. This creates an impossible situation. Operating as a serial killer in 2025 requires either 1. Being unsophisticated and getting caught immediately through basic forensic technology, or 2. Being sophisticated and getting caught because that sophistication itself becomes evidence of guilt. There's no middle ground where knowledge provides protection without creating suspicion. Dexter's forensic expertise, his greatest asset in 2006, when DNA took weeks and surveillance was limited, transforms into his greatest liability in 2025, when that same expertise marks him as exactly the type of person investigators profile as a potential serial killer. The world hasn't just developed new tools to catch killers, it developed tools that specifically target people who understand how to avoid the older tools. Dexter Morgan would be caught within his first 3 to 5 kills in 2025, not eventually, within weeks. Every phase of his operation fails against modern technology. Database queries get logged and flagged by AI. Google searches live forever in cloud storage. M99 purchases hit monitoring programs. ALPR networks photograph his vehicle everywhere he drives. Ring cameras record from every angle. Cell towers track his phone with GPS precision. Victims' phones broadcast their locations during abduction. Fitness trackers record exact time of death. AIS transponders log his boat's position continuously. Marina surveillance timestamps every trip. When investigators cross-reference these data streams, patterns emerge immediately. The Bay Harbor Butcher case that took 2 years in 2006 gets solved in 2 weeks. The close calls that saved him throughout 8 seasons wouldn't work once. Cloud backups mean deleted footage still exists. Photos sync to remote servers before he can destroy them. His digital history creates patterns AI algorithms flag automatically. Working inside law enforcement makes it worse, not better. Dennis Ratter's criminal justice degree kept him free for 30 years until his expertise made him overconfident. When a blood spatter analyst knows about encryption, VPN services, or metadata deletion, that knowledge itself becomes suspicious. Why does someone who analyzed blood droplets understand how to scrub digital footprints? This creates Dexter's impossible dilemma. Everything that makes him Dexter gets him caught. The code requires research that creates database logs. The ritual demands kill rooms his phone places him at. Blood slide trophies contain victim DNA. He can't give up these elements without ceasing to be Dexter, but he can't maintain them without leaving evidence trails that guarantee capture. The original series worked because 2006 through 2013 was a perfect technological sweet spot. DNA took weeks, not minutes. Surveillance wasn't networked. Database queries went unlogged. Cell data wasn't stored forever. Genealogical DNA testing didn't exist. That gap between old forensics and new technology gave methodical killers breathing room. That gap closed. New Blood and Resurrection adapted by abandoning everything: law enforcement work, databases, plastic wrap rooms, ocean disposal, the whole ritual. Dexter kept only the psychological core while discarding every element that created evidence. Even then, Angela nearly caught him through basic Google searches. Even then, he had to kill and run. In 2025, there's no perfect killer operating for years undetected, just a countdown to capture. The question isn't whether Dexter gets caught, but how many die before algorithms flag the patterns and investigators pull the data. 3 victims? 5? Somewhere there, the evidence becomes undeniable. This carries one uncomfortable truth: the surveillance infrastructure that catches Dexter in weeks, ALPR networks, ring cameras, cell towers, genealogical databases, AI algorithms, monitor all of us constantly. The digital trails making his crimes obvious document everyone's movements. The world that makes his capture inevitable is the world we all live in. The question isn't whether surveillance captures sophisticated criminals. It does. The question is whether a world this closely watched is one we're willing to accept, even if it keeps us safer from people like Dexter Morgan. If you enjoyed this breakdown of whether Dexter would be caught today, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our previous video, how long it took everyone to start suspecting Dexter, and I'll see you in the next one.